My son, Vincent Yen, was always as serene as a lily, never vying for anything, never ambitious. I poured my heart and soul into him, securing him the position of heir to the conglomerate. Yet he called me manipulative, wicked, and disgracefully greedy. I painstakingly sought a suitable daughter-in-law for him from an illustrious family. He accused me of being a sycophant, only knowing how to flatter the rich, completely devoid of backbone. Later, when I was diagnosed with cancer and bedridden, he proactively sought out doctors and declared he would abandon my treatment. He said my hands were stained with blood, that I was utterly unworthy of being his mother, and that I should have died to atone for my sins. After I died, he poured my ashes down the sewer. Yet, he gained a reputation for being just and selfless. In the end, he took over the conglomerate, his reputation golden. While I, even in death, was slandered by him, my demise exploited to paint his own image as extraordinary and ethereal. But when I opened my eyes, I was back to the day the entire family gathered to discuss the heir. This time, I wouldn't risk my life for him. He wouldn't be able to sit still. My foster son, Alan Yen, was a prodigy. In my previous life, he was poisoned and paralyzed for the sake of the family. Because I wanted my biological son to become the conglomerate's heir, I caused chaos at the family meeting. Eventually, the conglomerate was forced to concede, handing the heir position to my son. But my actions deeply dissatisfied the shareholders. They saw me as overbearing, ruthless, and heartless. For my son's future, I feared nothing. I argued with shareholders, I debated with senior executives, but my son remained silent, indifferent as a lily. Only when everything was settled and he became the sole heir did he finally speak, with a calm expression. He said I was too pragmatic and disgracefully greedy. Then, he knelt before the family elders, declaring he had no ambition for the heir position. He had received an elite education abroad and wished to avoid power struggles. He pleaded with me not to cause trouble for his elder brother for personal gain. He willingly ceded the heir position to Alan. The family elders were overjoyed, praising Vincent profusely, calling him a saintly figure, a true gentleman. My husband also spoke, declining the position, claiming he was merely a cripple and that Alan was the more suitable heir. He even volunteered to be Alan's assistant. Seeing the two brothers' deep affection, everyone nodded in satisfaction. They were all good people, only I was painted as a wicked, selfish, unscrupulous stepmother. Bit by bit, memories surfaced, and a surge of anger ignited within me. My efforts had been utterly wasted. I fought battles for him, and he stabbed me in the back. Such an ungrateful wretch was better off gone. I regained my composure, looked at the shareholders, and said, Alan, despite his disability, possesses immense capability. I believe appointing him as the heir is the most fitting choice. Hearing my words, my son, calm as a lily, immediately changed expression. You agree to let Alan be the heir? My husband repeated the question, incredulous, as he thought he misheard. Before, I had always insisted that everything I owned must go to my biological son. My husband's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe his ears, his face a mixture of confusion and emotion. I sneered inwardly. Don't think I don't know your schemes. My foster son took over the conglomerate's business in his teens. Because of his exceptional talent, he was poisoned, leading to his paralysis. No one wanted a disabled person to lead the family, fearing it would tarnish their image. But no one wanted to bear the stigma of being heartless either. After all, he was harmed for the family's sake. Who would dare openly object? They'd be severely criticized by public opinion. So they conspired to make me the villain. After all, what mother wouldn't protect her biological son? This life, they wouldn't make a sacrifice out of me. I smiled, flipping through the documents in my hand, glancing at the shareholders whose expressions were now awkward. Alan is the eldest son and has dedicated himself wholeheartedly to the conglomerate. My biological son stared at me for a long time, wanting to speak but holding back, eventually saying nothing. In the previous life, he fully enjoyed the benefits of my power struggles. Now, with no one to worry and scheme for him, he must feel uncomfortable, right? Clearly, he'd reaped all the advantages, yet pretended indifference, using me to build his noble image, turning me into a stepping stone to elevate his reputation as a golden Buddhist disciple who sought no gain. Meanwhile, my foster son was moved to tears. He had long given up hope for the heir position, never expecting his only supporter to be me, his stepmother. When the meeting concluded, everyone gradually left, but my son lingered, unwilling to depart. Now, I didn't even want to look at him for a second. The son I had loved with all my heart turned out to be a white-eyed wolf, biting his own birth mother. The thought alone was nauseating. I regretted giving birth to such a beast. But alas, no returns are possible now. "Mother, why do you seem different today?" he asked. I pretended to be absorbed in my book, sneering, not bothering to answer. "Oh, you notice a difference too, do you? No longer fighting for you, no longer letting you sit idly and reap benefits. Uncomfortable, isn't it?" "Mother, I fully support my elder brother becoming the heir, but he is, after all, disabled. I'm just worried it might affect the family's image." I almost burst out laughing. Since when did family matters concern him? How could I have been so blind to this male green tea type before? I curled my lips into a smile and told him not to worry, that I knew my limits. Hearing this, his face momentarily brightened, as if thinking, "I knew it." But it wasn't long before he regained his haughty, indifferent, non-competitive demeanor. I didn't bother saying anything more. He himself said he didn't want to be the heir, so why should I force him? Didn't he always act high-minded, not bothering to compete with Alan Yen? Well then, I wanted to see what he could achieve without me paving the way. I immediately contacted a lawyer to amend the conglomerate's inheritance document. Among the younger generation of the Yen family, only my foster son, a clever and capable individual, was fit to lead the family forward. Though paralyzed, he suffered for the family's sake. The family couldn't treat him poorly. My biological son, spoiled by me since childhood, couldn't shoulder the responsibilities of the Yen family. In my previous life, I was too biased, only thinking of Vincent, wanting to leave him with the best of everything. But the truth proved me wrong. After taking over the family, he didn't know how to manage, causing the business to decline and stock prices plummeted. The conglomerate nearly collapsed. If it weren't for Alan establishing his own faction to stabilize the situation, perhaps even the last remnants of the Yen family's assets would have been lost. This life, I absolutely wouldn't let that tragedy repeat. The lawyer had just finished verifying the document, and I hadn't even had time to lock it in the safe when my son, accompanied by a group of senior executives, burst into my office. Seeing this familiar scene, I chuckled. It was just like the previous life. He would cry dramatically in front of everyone, claiming he had wronged his elder brother, and that it was all my fault, his selfish, greedy mother. He would feign nobility, declaring his intention to exile himself abroad to atone for his sins, while also ceding his position to Alan Yen. The two brothers would embrace, sobbing, and this touching image would quickly be captured by reporters and published in newspapers, praising the deep affection between the Yen brothers. The entire upper class would laud his noble character and foresight. And what about me? I was reviled by society as a wicked, ruthless mother, seizing the assets of the eldest son of the main line. He did all this because he had calculated that even if he pretended not to compete, I, his mother, would fight desperately to secure the heir position for him. One side put on a show of disinterest in fame and fortune, while the other pushed me into the abyss. But alas, my son, this life, your mother will no longer manage you. Just as I was about to ask the lawyer to read the document, my son suddenly snatched it. "Mother, you can't do this. Are you deliberately trying to sow discord between me and my elder brother?" Before I could speak, my son pointed at the document, his voice righteous as he criticized me. I calmly brewed a cup of coffee, silently watching him perform. Seeing my lack of reaction, he became even more convinced of his thoughts, his voice growing louder as if afraid others wouldn't hear. "I told you a long time ago, Mother, I don't want to compete with my elder brother for this family head position. Though I bear the Yen surname, my elder brother is the firstborn. How could I snatch what's his? What you're doing truly hurts me. What will outsiders think of me?" He spoke with such righteous indignation that it made me feel a touch of nausea. The lawyer had opened the inheritance document. Seeing the name written there, the lawyer nervously glanced at Vincent Yen, intending to interrupt but failing. My son quickly stepped in front of Alan Yen, who was in his wheelchair, looking utterly remorseful. Then, with a thud, he knelt before him. "Elder brother, I am truly sorry. Today's matter was entirely Mother's decision. In my heart, you are the most suitable person to inherit the Yen family. It's all Mother's fault. I hope you won't be angry." After speaking, he cast a cold glance at me, as if I had committed some heinous crime. My husband looked utterly delighted with his younger son, his eyes brimming with pride. At the same time, he looked at me with an expression of disgust, as if I were a deceitful, manipulative individual, only capable of despicable schemes to put my biological son on top. The others were gradually swayed by my son's words, believing him to be a virtuous gentleman of upright character. As for me, in their eyes, I was a sinister, wicked person, only knowing how to protect my son, even wishing to seize the position rightfully belonging to the eldest son of the legal wife. One by one, they criticized me, saying I managed the family too ruthlessly, tarnishing the Yen family's centuries-old reputation. I coldly looked at the hypocritical faces of these ungrateful wretches. When the Yen family was on the brink of bankruptcy, I entered this marriage. My husband was nothing more than a playboy, with no business acumen whatsoever. The Yen family's prosperity today was entirely due to my efforts. I steered the family, giving these Yen family members a chance at life. They sucked my blood, and that was bad enough, but how dare they defile my name? Without me, would this family even exist today? Their criticisms didn't bother me, but what chilled me most was that amidst my humiliation and condemnation, the son I had loved so deeply sat there, indifferent as a lily, not uttering a single word. In my previous life, maternal love had blinded me. I always thought my son was a pure white lotus, growing in mud without being tainted. The less he competed, the more anxious I became, fighting for him. In the end, he used his upright image to earn public praise, while I was trampled into the mud, my ashes thrown straight into the sewer, becoming an object of global contempt. I truly didn't understand what karma I had accumulated to give birth to such a child. This time, I would expose his true colors right in front of everyone. Let's see if he still dared to fabricate stories and defame me. I gazed intently at my foster son. I believed that a person's conscience couldn't be forever obscured. He lost his biological mother at a young age, and I painstakingly raised him. He was sickly, often with high fevers. I once held him all night, comforting and caring for him. I even kept company shares for him, preventing other family members from swallowing them. After he became paralyzed, apart from the matter of the heir position, I was confident I had never wronged him. Furthermore, in this life, I was the only one in the family who supported him as the heir. As long as he had a conscience, he surely wouldn't forget what I had done for him. Just as I expected, my foster son propelled his wheelchair forward and eloquently defended me. My stepmother was never a bad person. She is the one who treated me best in this family. He clasped my hand, steadfastly saying, "Mother, don't worry. No matter who you choose as the heir, in my heart, you will always be my true mother." Excellent, everyone heard that, right? It seems my reputation as a wicked stepmother can be cleared today. I coldly watched my biological son standing there with an utterly righteous expression. I sneered and signaled the lawyer to read the document aloud. "Everyone, you'd best listen carefully to avoid being accused of saying I'm ruthless, an unfeeling and ungrateful woman. The heir of the Yen family is Alan Yen." After the lawyer finished reading, Vincent Yen's composed expression completely shattered. "Mother!" He looked at me in disbelief, then quickly lunged forward, snatching the document from the lawyer's hand. His eyes repeatedly fixated on the name written within, filled with utter disappointment. Watching this, I felt immensely satisfied. Let's see how he'll act now. I smiled, gently patting his shoulder. "I know you've always been high-minded, never caring for the heir position, so I've granted your wish. From now on, your elder brother is the head of the Yen family." Vincent Yen looked as if he wanted to cry but couldn't. He was accustomed to hiding behind me to reap benefits, never expecting to have no share this time. He wanted to say something, but with so many people present, he could only swallow his indignation. Alan Yen was also utterly astonished, seemingly unable to believe that I would voluntarily cede the family head position. Seeing the emotional look in his eyes, I smiled amidst everyone's applause. He pushed his wheelchair forward, his voice filled with emotion, recounting all that I had done for him. Finally, he vowed to lead the Yen family to absolute glory, never failing my expectations. Only Vincent Yen stood there, looking utterly disheveled. His earlier impassioned words now became a laughingstock. Not a few people began to whisper and point at him. In my previous life, after the document was announced, I immediately became the family's villain. Coupled with Vincent Yen's drama, my reputation plummeted completely, dragging down the conglomerate's stock prices. The shareholders placed all the blame on me, forcing me to resign as chairperson. At that time, Vincent Yen not only failed to defend me but also sided with them, criticizing me as unworthy of the position. As a result, the position fell into the hands of a shareholder who had always been at odds with me. Vincent Yen even personally went to congratulate that person, earning him praise for his magnanimity and gentlemanly demeanor. Recalling that, I felt even more indignant. He climbed high by stepping on me, then turned back to spit on me. It was truly like raising a snake in one's bosom. But now, as soon as the news of Alan Yen becoming the head of the Yen family was announced, the conglomerate's stock price immediately soared, finally hitting the ceiling within minutes. My reputation completely reversed. The shareholders and elders who had just criticized me now vied to praise my foresight and wise decision. The internet was also flooded with articles praising the Yen family as a reliable family with integrity. People recalled Alan Yen's contributions to the country and society over the years. Despite his paralysis, his character and reputation were 1,000,000 times better than Vincent Yen, who was constantly embroiled in scandals with female celebrities. When everyone had signed and sealed the documents, Vincent Yen stumbled forward. Before signing, he tried to give me a look as if pleading for a shred of pity, but I didn't even bother to glance at him. I raised a glass of champagne with Alan Yen and the major shareholders, chatting happily. The lawyer urged him several times. Vincent Yen finally had to sign, filled with resentment. Looking around, no one paid him any attention. He brazenly clung to Alan Yen. "Elder brother, I know. I always believed you were the most deserving heir." Some shareholders who had been displeased with his earlier remarks now nodded in satisfaction, seeing the two brothers reconciled. "Mother, you've worked so hard for so many years. Choosing Alan as the heir is also for the good of the conglomerate. You must understand your mother, son. Don't be disrespectful in the future." "That's right, filial piety is the most important virtue. If you dare disrespect your mother, we will discipline you on behalf of your parents." Everyone whispered and mocked Vincent Yen. His face flushed, then paled, unable to retort a single word. Finally, he got a taste of this bitter feeling. From the day Alan Yen became the head of the Yen family, the pressure on my shoulders greatly reduced. Although I still held the title of chairperson, I began delegating tasks to talented individuals within the conglomerate. In my previous life, fearing Vincent Yen would suffer, I clung to power, unwilling to let go. When he took over the family, I constantly had to clean up the messes he created and bore the reputation of being greedy and ambitious. Due to overwork, I developed breast cancer in my middle age. It was clearly curable, yet Vincent Yen forced me to abandon treatment. He said my reputation was too bad, that I was unworthy of being his mother, and should die to atone for my sins. I only regretted realizing it too late, not until he caused my death, that I understood what I had raised. He spoke of not competing, but in reality, he was just like his father, hypocritical, selfish, and deceitful. This life, I absolutely would not let the tragedy repeat. I immediately scheduled a comprehensive breast examination at the best gynecological hospital. In my previous life, the cancer showed early signs but was completely controllable. I also began attending charity galas, taking photos with celebrities, and socializing with the wives and daughters of major conglomerates. I looked 10 years younger, no longer a workaholic powerhouse buried in my duties all day. Vincent Yen tried to see me many times, but I refused him every time. Without my protection at the company, his meager tactics were utterly incapable of suppressing his subordinates. He was gradually marginalized, left with only the title of general manager, but no real power. Today, as I prepared to go out for a party, Vincent Yen was waiting at the villa gate, finally blocking me. Seeing his haggard appearance, devoid of his former elegance, I felt immensely satisfied. I crossed my arms and motioned for him to speak quickly. Vincent Yen began to complain that I hadn't been paying attention to him lately, then secretly whined that no one listened to him anymore. "Mother, don't blame elder brother. His subordinates must just want to prove themselves." I was tired of hearing these words. I merely cast a nonchalant glance, not bothering to respond. His eyes suddenly lit up when he saw the invitation in my hand. "Mother, are you attending the Le Group's gala? Do you remember when Olivia and I used to play together when we were little? Back then, our families even discussed an engagement. But Mother, I'm not the type who craves fame and fortune. Please don't misunderstand me." Indeed, just like in my previous life, he proactively brought up the childhood engagement. He claimed he didn't want to rely on anyone, but his actions were very honest. If he had just admitted it frankly, it wouldn't be worth mentioning, but he always liked to use me as a stepping stone, wanting to exploit me while still appearing high-minded. It was truly disgusting. I had been foolish once in my previous life. Would I let him have his way again? I smiled, looking at him, intentionally speaking slowly. "Don't worry, I understand your intentions. What you desire, I will certainly give you. I will invite Miss Le to a party at our home. Then, I have important news to announce." Vincent Yen was so happy his hands trembled. Excitedly, he rushed forward and hugged me tightly. "Mother, I knew it, you're the best to me." The Yen family hosted a magnificent gala to celebrate Alan Yen officially becoming the head of the family. All the influential figures in the upper class were present, including the young masters and ladies of major conglomerates with business ties to the Yen family. That day, Olivia Le, the heiress of the Le Group, appeared in a pristine white evening gown, radiantly beautiful. I took her hand, making a public appearance before everyone. Everyone said that in the upper class, there were countless wealthy young ladies, but only one who could hold power and maintain her position like her. In my previous life, she agreed to marry Vincent Yen largely because she got along very well with me. After my death, she grieved for a long time. What right did Vincent Yen have to be worthy of such an outstanding girl? Before the main party began, Vincent Yen approached me, probing. He feared another embarrassing scene like the last time. Looking at the son I had raised with my own hands, I felt a chill. In his eyes, I was merely a tool to pave his way. As long as his hands remained clean, all the dirty work was for me to do. I looked him directly in the eyes and chuckled softly. "From today onwards, you and Olivia are family. You must treat her well." Vincent Yen immediately sobered up, completely different from his earlier sluggishness. But had he misunderstood my meaning? Olivia Le was no less capable than Alan Yen. Furthermore, she was the only daughter of the Le family. Olivia's father once said that in the future, the entire Le Group would become his daughter's dowry. If such a powerful young lady married Vincent Yen, it would be a powerful stepping stone for him. Even if he didn't become the Yen family heir, he could still reap enormous benefits as the son-in-law of the Le family. Indeed, my son was truly good at scheming. It was just a pity that I was no longer the mother who would sacrifice everything for him. I raised my wine glass and smiled at everyone. "First, I want to thank all the distinguished guests for attending today's party. As the chairperson of the Yen Group, I hereby announce that from now on, Alan Yen will be the head of the Yen family." After a lively round of congratulations, I led Olivia onto the stage. On this momentous day, I also have some good news to announce. The Yen Group and the Le Group have decided to unite our families. As soon as I finished speaking, the entire hall immediately buzzed with excitement. Everyone's eyes collectively turned towards Vincent Yen. No wonder he had given up the family head position. So, he had already latched onto the Le family. Vincent Yen's expression changed instantly. He had always valued his reputation, always portraying himself as high-minded and unconcerned with fame and fortune. He couldn't let everyone misunderstand him like this. Vincent Yen quickly rushed onto the stage and snatched the microphone from my hand. "Mother, I never thought you'd be such a person. It's true that when I was young, Olivia and I joked about an engagement, but I truly love her with all my heart. I never thought of an alliance for business interests. You've turned my love into a transaction. You've disappointed me too much." His dramatic and emotional tone made Olivia, standing beside him, blush, but we all knew the truth was not as he claimed. It was the same in the previous life. Vincent Yen brazenly criticized me in front of everyone, building an image of a deeply devoted and loyal man, while I became the selfish, pragmatic villain. I had put so much effort into arranging this marriage, only to end up in an impossible situation. This time, I wouldn't let him play the upright gentleman on my back again. I quietly took out a handkerchief, pretending to wipe the corners of my eyes as if in immense pain. To others, I appeared as a deeply wronged mother. Olivia immediately spoke up, cutting off Vincent Yen before he could say anything more. "Second young master, what nonsense are you talking about? When did I ever have an engagement with you?" Everyone fell silent, stunned. She continued, speaking frankly, "When we say unite our families, it's because I've adopted the chairperson as my foster mother. From now on, the Le Group and the Yen Group will have a closer cooperative relationship. Chairperson Yen has always thought of you, wanting me and elder brother to create opportunities for you to train. Yet, you dare to badmouth her right in front of everyone? Do you have any conscience left?" The entire hall was as silent as a tomb. An awkward atmosphere enveloped Vincent Yen. He still held the microphone but had absolutely no idea what to say. He stammered several times, but the more he spoke, the more humiliated he became. Someone in the audience burst out laughing, followed by successive peals of laughter. The guests present quickly changed the subject, congratulating me on having such an excellent foster daughter. I happily raised my glass with everyone, celebrating Alan Yen. With a dignified demeanor, he began to toast the elders. Olivia and I also pulled a few close ladies into cheerful conversation. The atmosphere at the party was harmonious and joyful. Only Vincent Yen stood alone amidst the crowd, his face drained of color. His eyes darted around, looking for an escape, appearing utterly lost and disgraced. A few gossips began to whisper, scoffing. "He's truly full of himself, thinking he had an engagement with Misla, and he put on such a high-minded act, but she didn't even mention it. Poor chairperson, to give birth to such a shameless child." Vincent Yen's face flushed crimson, trembling with rage. The image of the refined young master he had meticulously built over the years completely crumbled. Unable to bear the mocking glances of everyone, he hastily turned and fled the party. I tried to suppress my laughter. Indeed, when they don't have to bear the consequences themselves, anyone can play the righteous role. Now that his true colors were exposed, he couldn't keep up the act. My mood was exhilarating. Holding Olivia's hand, I finalized several important cooperation projects between our conglomerates. As for where Vincent Yen ran off to, I didn't care at all. It wasn't until Dean Yen, his father, returned from his overseas trip with his mistress that he learned of the scandal at the party. Without thinking, he immediately reprimanded me, saying I had brought disgrace upon the Yen family and blamed me for not fulfilling my duties as a mother. In my previous life, Dean Yen had also constantly bound me with morality like this. It seemed whatever happened was always my fault, while he, as a father, bore no responsibility whatsoever. I truly suspected my breast cancer was caused by him infuriating me to the point of illness. This time, I wouldn't tolerate it anymore. I calmly pulled out a stack of photos and threw them directly in front of him. They were intimate pictures of him and his mistress from their trip. I chuckled faintly. "Hasn't the Yen family's reputation already been thrown away by you long ago? You're truly a model father, teaching your sons so well how to be one thing to one's face and another behind their back, hypocritical just like you." My blunt exposure completely caught Dean Yen off guard. He immediately became enraged, losing all reason, and bellowed, demanding a divorce from me. Upon hearing the news, Vincent Yen immediately rushed back. "Mother, father, if you divorce, what will become of me?" I pretended not to understand the hidden meaning in his words, gently patting his shoulder and comforting him. "Don't worry, Alan Yen surely won't treat his younger brother poorly." This statement terrified Vincent Yen to the extreme. Now, he had become the laughingstock of the entire company. Wherever he went, people would point and whisper behind his back. He anxiously gripped my hand, his eyes full of calculations. "Mother, why don't you transfer all the shares in your hands to me first? After you and father divide the assets, I'll return them to you. That way, you won't suffer any losses." Finally, the main act had arrived. I knew he wouldn't miss this opportunity. In my previous life, it was precisely through this ploy that he tricked me out of all my shares. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so impoverished that I couldn't even afford medical treatment. When I begged for treatment money, he even ordered the doctor to neglect me, saying my reputation was too bad, that I was unworthy of being his mother. Thinking of this, a perfect plan suddenly struck me. I calmly agreed with him, even setting a condition. "If you can reclaim Dean Yen's shares, I'll give you all of mine." Vincent Yen hesitated for only a moment, then immediately nodded in agreement. This was his only chance to win against Alan Yen. He would surely not miss it. If the plan succeeded, he would become the largest shareholder of the company. By then, even Alan Yen would have to defer to him. Vincent Yen was extremely cunning and also generous in his actions. Before long, he was intimately calling Dean Yen's mistress, stepmother, appearing perfectly harmonious. In my previous life, after I died, he even brought my ashes before the mistress to apologize, saying I was too greedy and refused to publicly divorce Dean Yen. Then he personally proved that the mistress was not a third party and even apologized to her on my behalf. This act of great righteousness earned him a good reputation, while I became the wicked ex-wife deserving of public scorn. It's no exaggeration to say that even if I hadn't died, he would have driven me to death. This time, Dean Yen was also convinced by Vincent Yen. At the mistress's urging, he transferred all the shares under his name to his son. That day, I wore a satisfied smile. After a long time, I took out the share transfer agreement that I had already prepared and signed beforehand. Vincent Yen, with greedy eyes, didn't bother to scrutinize it and hastily signed it immediately. In front of him, I calmly handed all the documents to the board of directors. When Dean Yen officially divorced me, he went to the company to find his son and demand his shares back. But unexpectedly, his own son turned against him right there. "Father, you're old. You should go home and enjoy your old age. You don't need to worry about company matters anymore." Dean Yen's eyes bulged, so angry he nearly suffocated, then collapsed to the ground, unconscious on the spot. Afterwards, Vincent Yen slowly turned to look at me, his face feigning sorrow and grief. He said he wasn't greedy for wealth and glory, that he didn't care about the heir position, but I hadn't proactively given it to him, which hurt him deeply. Even if Mother had chosen me, I would have ceded it to elder brother. But Mother didn't choose me at all. Both of you are sinners. If you've done wrong, you must suffer the consequences. I'll temporarily hold these shares. I'll return them later. Looking at his utterly fake demeanor, I felt such disgust, as if I had just swallowed a dead fly. Vincent Yen triumphantly believed he had won for sure. He immediately summoned Alan Yen and all the shareholders to a meeting. "Elder brother, I truly don't want to compete with you, but Mother and Father insisted on giving all the shares to me. I had no choice. Although you are the family heir, I am the largest shareholder of the company. From now on, you'll have to consult me before doing anything." Everyone stared blankly at Vincent Yen, as if looking at an idiot. An elderly major shareholder clicked his tongue. "Hey, Vincent, is something wrong with you? If not, why don't you look at the shareholding percentage table again?" Vincent Yen tried to deny it, pretending indifference, but eventually secretly glanced. After seeing it, his face turned ashen as ash. His name wasn't even on the list of shareholders. The person at the top of the shareholding percentage table was me. "No way, is the system glitching?" I calmly smiled, tossing the share transfer agreement in front of him. "Look carefully at the content in the middle. It's clearly in black and white. Vincent Yen personally signed the contract transferring all the shares under his name to me. When he signed, he was blinded by the enormous wealth and feared I would change my mind, so he didn't dare to read the content carefully and signed immediately without hesitation. Now, he could only blame himself for being too foolish." I leaned close to his ear, my voice soft as a whisper. "If it weren't for you, how could your mother have easily reclaimed everything and left Dean Yen with nothing?" Vincent Yen screamed, his eyes bloodshot, cursing me frantically. "How can there be such a wicked mother in this world? You won't even spare your own son. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution?" He screamed like a madman, cursing me word by word, disregarding everything. I sneered. Is this the good child I lovingly raised? If I could have gone back in time sooner, I would never have given birth to this beast. The shares were originally given to him by me, now I'm just taking them back. Yet, he couldn't bear it. Not long after, someone reported that Vincent Yen had gone mad. At that time, I was having dinner with Elder Yen. I merely took a delicate sip of red wine. "Take him to the hospital. Whatever treatment he needs, follow the protocol. I don't want to see him again." The hospital director reported that Vincent Yen screamed every day in the hospital, constantly repeating, "I am the head of the Yen family, haha." Only when he went mad did his true nature emerge. As for Dean Yen, he had a stroke upon hearing that his beloved son had betrayed him. He became so furious he was paralyzed on one side, bedridden for the rest of his life. At first, the mistress stayed to care for him, but when she realized she couldn't accumulate any more assets, she immediately sold all the villas Dean Yen had previously given her and fled with the money. Elder Yen called me, his voice full of helplessness. My dear, for my sake, I'm old. Please give your father and son a way to live. I gently swirled the wine glass in my hand, smiling. Grandfather, you exaggerate. How could I let family members wander out there? Hearing my words, Elder Yen finally breathed a sigh of relief. But only I knew clearly all the wicked and despicable things Dean Yen had done behind my back, enough for me to send him to prison for life. Yet I didn't do that, because being confined to a hospital bed, living a life worse than death, was the most fitting punishment for him. In the years that followed, Olivia and Alan Yen joined forces to build a powerful commercial empire. As for me, I had long since resigned as chairperson, embarking on world travels, enjoying a rich life free from worries. Sometimes, in the quiet of midnight, I wondered if the events of my previous life were real or just a long dream. But what did it matter? I was still the largest shareholder of the Yen Group, a wealthy woman with money and no troubles. That was enough.